Okay. Hi, Kent. Hi, Cindy. How are you doing?
We're fine.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we're here. I just want to tell you both that I'm really glad that you made that step to go ahead and give me a call. A quick introduction. I'm Ashley. I am the therapist that you spoke to over the phone. This is telehealth. So I just want to remind you that those consents that I sent over were giving me permission to conduct this therapy online. There was also a text consent that you guys managed to send back, and that's just allowing me to be able to talk to you through text, schedule appointments at your convenience, because I know you're both working really hard. I also sent over some documents talking about HIPAA, talking about confidentiality. And just as a reminder, I am a mandated reporter. Just to review that, that means if you report any ideation of harming yourself or others, any child abuse, sexual abuse, or elderly abuse, I am by law mandated to report that. Everything else that we say in here is completely confidential and will not leave this room. Okay, did you have any questions about that?
No.
No.
No? Okay, great. So moving forward, how this session will pretty much go is I'm going to ask you questions about what brought you here. And then I'm going to give you guys the floor to kind of explain to me what's going on. I'm going to then in turn ask you more questions about your family and the dynamics. After we go through that, then we will talk about what our next sessions will look like forward. And I might have some homework to send you home with that you guys can work on together. Okay? So Cindy, why don't you start? Can you tell me what brought you guys in? What's your presenting concerns at this moment?
Well, I guess really, we were having some financial problems and we were arguing. And then Kent had some beers, so I don't know if that was part of the problem, but he was trying to leave in the middle of our discussion. And I'm tired of him abandoning stuff in the middle of things. I want to be able to resolve stuff. But he decided he wanted to leave. So I blocked the door, tried to keep him from leaving, but then he grabbed me by the wrist and kind of swung me around and got physical. And then the kids were really upset. So I was trying to calm them down. And then Kent, he left and just decided to stay at his brother's, um and I just decided to call because we needed some help.
Mhm.
This is just it's not okay.
Yeah. And I do want to recognize that you guys are reaching out for help, and that's very courageous on both of you because it can be hard to ask for help at times. And also, I want to let you know after reviewing some of the things that you told me, it's very, very normal for a young family with two children working hard to have issues. So I just want to let you know that I'm here to support you guys. And thank you for being here. Kent, is there anything that you'd like to add, or do you feel that account that Cindy gave was pretty accurate?
Well, I don't know if it was accurate. It may be accurate from her perspective, but not necessarily accurate from my perspective. We are having financial problems, and we've tried to discuss that. But for some reason, I feel that she truly doesn't understand what the issues are. So I got to a point where I felt that it was necessary for me to leave the home so that it did not escalate into something beyond a discussion. So I attempted to leave the house, and she grabbed me, and I repositioned her and moved her in another direction so I could leave the home. And then, yes, I went and I stayed with my brother. And so I guess we jointly decided that we would reach out and at least try to receive some help.
Okay. And Cindy, when we hear when we hear Kent say that he repositioned you. That act of him handling you, how did that make you feel in that moment?
Not good. I felt like he was pretty rough with me and angry, and just I knew he wanted me out of the way, and I was blocking his way, but you know, he didn't just reposition me. I kind of ran into the refrigerator door because he took me aside pretty hard. So.
Mm-hmm. And Kent, how does that make you feel hearing that Cindy, that action did not make her feel very good?
Well, I feel bad that it didn't make her feel good, but my position is that she stumbled when I repositioned her, and she not very coordinated, so she stumbled into the refrigerator door.
Okay. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the financial issues. Who would you say is the sole provider, or how do you manage finances together? How do you see that in your family?
Well,
How do you, yeah.
I I'm a semi-skilled laborer, so so my income is not as doesn't add up to what she does. So I'm assuming that she probably thinks that she carries the bulk of the responsibility for finances here. But I think I make a major contribution based upon my salary at my job.
Okay. I want to acknowledge that you guys are both using I statements, and I think that's really great, and that's really important that you both are acknowledging your feelings as your own. And the financial situation, be as it may, seems to be the stem of the argument. And I want to dive a little bit into, Cindy, what was your family life like with your parents or caregivers? What was that financial situation like? What kind of role models and gender roles were set in your family growing up?
Well, my mom was a homemaker actually, so my dad made the money, but I guess she was better at handling bills and keeping track of things, so she always handled that and did the taxes and whatnot. And so for me, I don't mind sharing the finances. I just think we need to agree that um about spending.
Mm-hmm.
And how the finances are used. We've got two little boys. We need to set aside money. Um, and going out and blowing money at a bar one night, or just doing, some things that aren't necessarily helpful to our family. I think we should have a discussion about how better using those funds.
Okay. And how about for you, Ken? What did the gender roles and financial roles look like in your family?
Well, I grew up in a household where the father was the primary breadwinner in the family. So the father was primarily responsible for providing for the children and for the wife. But in our particular situation, I think we both have had issues as far as alcohol is concerned in the past, and I don't foresee what I'm doing right now as a major issue. So it's not like I drink constantly all the time. Every now and a great then, I may have a beer. And as a matter of fact, when I left from this argument, I actually went and had a couple of beers and then went over to my brother's house. But it's not something that I do on a normal, every week basis. So I think it's more about we really, in my opinion, we really don't make enough money. So we do have to make some adjustments.
Okay, I see. And I want to talk a little bit about self-regulation, and what that term means in relation to you two as a couple, and maybe even identifying some self-responsibility in these issues. And I see that you say, Kent, that drinking may not be an issue. It sounds from Cindy's perspective that it may be somewhat of an issue spending the extra money at the bar. It is very possible too that the drinking could have added to the escalation of the altercation that you had recently. So when we talk about self-regulation, what do you think, Kent, that you can do that could possibly help prevent these escalations, or even just meeting Cindy's needs of maybe not spending the extra money on beer, since, as you stated before, it wasn't that important to you?
Well, I don't spend a lot of money on beer, and I personally think I'm quite capable of refraining from purchasing beer altogether if that's really going to help with the overall not only expenses but the amount of money that we have available to spend for other needs. Um, so for me, I'm willing to try that, and willing to give up my vices to see if we can make this work.
Okay. I think that that's wonderful for you to acknowledge that. I also want to say, having two young children in the house, right? And how do you think that these altercations might influence, I believe it's Mark, is it Mark? That's the older child, Michael, the 4-year-old. Right? He's very aware, he's learning, he's absorbing like a sponge. Do you think that some of these transgressions that have transpired between you two are affecting him in any way?
Who's that directed toward?
Michael, I'm just wondering if you've seen any changes. It sounds like when you left to the bar, Cindy, you stayed back and tried to calm the kids down. So they might have been triggered from the event that had transpired.
Yeah,
Do you?
they were upset about the fact that we were arguing and that their dad, that daddy left out the door, and that I think they were kind of scared about what happened, since I ended up being flung into the refrigerator. And so
Mhm.
they were just scared and confused, I think, and I just needed to calm them down. And so I don't want for us to model those kind of behaviors in front of the kids.
Right.
Yeah, and I mentioned to you, the primary reason that I actually left the house is I didn't want it to escalate into something beyond a conversation. So
Right.
um,
Okay.
I'm hopeful that, you know, that the actions and the direction that I took was more of a learning point, a teaching point for a young son, as opposed to him witnessing some violent interaction between his parents.
I can see that perspective. On the other hand, how did it make you feel, Cindy, when Kent's response was to leave the house in a situation where you're at home with two young ones? Did that bring up anything for you?
Yeah, it kind of felt like, instead of like facing things and dealing with stuff, like he was abandoning the issue. So I was feeling like abandoned, I guess, and with no like line of sight, no light at the end of the tunnel about, we have this issue, but how is it going to get resolved if you leave? And so,
Sure.
yeah, so um, yeah, so I felt like that.
Okay. Well, this is our first session here, so I'm going to start wrapping it up. I did want to just briefly show you something that I wanted to work on in our next session. I'm going to share my screen with you two for just a moment, if that's okay.
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 Okay. I'm going to share. Okay. So this here we have a family tree that we can do online since all of our sessions are telehealth. And I kind of just wanted to explore both sides of your families and see what kind of connections that we can make and how, you know, how you respond, your ideas of what a home should be like, what kind of roles were instilled and values. So we'll work on this. I'm going to give you the link and you can continue to work on it on your own, and then we'll review it in our next session. Okay, so I'll go ahead and send the link, and that'll be what we're going to be working on. I want to continue to encourage you to use I statements and to listen to each other, and also keep in mind how your reactions to each other will influence your children and how that might, you know, upset them or not upset them, what behaviors you're also modeling, and then meet next week if that's okay with you two.
Okay.
Okay, that'll be just fine.
Okay, thank you so much, Sydney and Kim, for coming in, and talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.